I'm not sure if these primaries came out the way you thought they were going to come out. They did not come out the way I thought they were going to come out. But then again, I never had a good enough clue as to where North Carolina was going to be on Madison Cawthorn. And what they said is, we're not anywhere on Madison Cawthorn. Welcome, everybody. Great to be with you here on Rumble. Of course, we do the show every Monday through Friday, presented by Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org. Kurt Schlichter, author and columnist, set to be with us in just a few minutes. Always like to start with the markets because that's a lot of red. That is an insane amount of red right there. The Dow down 464, the NASDAQ down 190. And it comes, here it is. Oh, look at that. Target shares were down 25%. And they were down 25% because of supply chain and because they can't get the product. People aren't buying the product. And they, when it came to expectations versus earnings per share, missed by a crap ton is how that's described. I was looking for where the price was. That's it. It dropped $53 in the pre-market. It opened at, what was that, 165? That's nuts. 25% plus. That's crazy. Right now it's down 24.86%. Absolutely brutal. So I guess the idea of, okay, the market hit its bottom, we're back. We're proving that the supply chain issues are real. We're proving that the economic issues in America are real. The inflationary pressures are real. Even if they have more revenue, right? Which they said they had more revenue. That's not enough. That's not enough because that's inflationary pressure causing the problem. You're paying more doesn't mean that you're somehow doing better. Right? They're taking in more dollars because it's costing them more to get the stuff, and they can't even get the stuff because of the supply chain. Proving once again this huge rift that exists between Wall Street and Midwest Main Street. A massive, massive rift between these two things. Now I'm gonna get into it in just a moment, but I wanted to get into what we saw with the primaries, because when we take a look at the primaries, we find that Madison Cawthorn got the crap kicked out of him. Now, if you say to me, hey, Tony, he only lost by 2%, he's the incumbent. He had the Trump endorsement. This should have gone better for the man, and it didn't. And that's on him. And that's on him. You know, there's this whole conversation that Stephen Miller, Trump advisor, was having that he's a young man with a bright future. He's overcome so much. Maybe he's got a bright future. But you have to be more than just the Trump guy. I'm not arguing you have to be anti-Trump. I think it's a maddening proposition. You can disagree with things. You got to be your own guy. When was Madison Cawthorn, in your view, his own guy? A lot of the missteps, the old photos, a lot of mistakes. You accuse members of the Republican Party of inviting you to an orgy and then don't say who and where was the orgy. No one's going to believe you. And you sound like a guy who's just throwing anything at the wall in hopes of somehow things working out well for you. But I didn't expect him to lose the primary, I'll admit. And then, of course, the other one is right here, this Pennsylvania one, the Pennsylvania primary, where you have basically less than 0.5% between Mehmet Oz and Dave McCormick. Mehmet Oz endorsed by Donald Trump. McCormick, a guy people had written off because they thought this Kathy Barnett woman was going to come in and take the thunder. She's a distant third. So you might get what is a recount, an automatic recount because of Pennsylvania there. Again, I don't trust Pennsylvania Republicans at this moment to not screw this race up against a guy, this lieutenant governor, he's just an oaf. In terms of how he presents himself, in terms of attitude, in terms of he's like one of these leftists who always wants to fight about everything. There's no kind of honest conversation going on. I could just beat you up. That's his plan. That's his modus operandi. You've seen him talk, you've seen him engage. He should be beatable in this Senate race to replace Pat Toomey, a Republican, even though not the greatest Republican. And you may never get the great conservative Republican out of Pennsylvania. I don't know what Oz could be. I'm not quite sure what McCormick could be, but they still haven't figured that one out yet. And I think that's because the Republican Party allowed way too many people in this race. I know you can't keep people out of a primary, but still, but still you could try to whittle it down just a bit. I think the Democrats do a better job of that, except of course when they're running for president in 2020. They didn't do a better job of it then, but Republicans didn't do a good job of it in 2016. But then again, that got us Trump on the stage, and that was the end of that. I've got more on the primaries, but I came across this right here. This is a headline from Kurt Schlichter, columnist over at townhall.com. I, of course, am at redstate.com with my video series, author of the Kelly Turnbull series of books at amazon.com. He's got, I forget the name of the new one coming out. He will tell us, let dumb institutions like Sports Illustrated commit suicide. And this is because of tweets from people like Jordan Peterson. Let me bring on Kurt Schlichter right there. Young man, how are you?
How you doing?
I am doing lovely and fantastic. You can find Kurt Schlichter on Twitter, of course, at Kurt Schlichter. But it all comes from this right here. This is the swimsuit edition Sports Illustrated is famous for. This is a model by the name of Yumi Nu, and she is what they call a plus size model. Feel the air quotes as I go through that.
That's a lot of plus.
And Jordan, we'll get to that in a second. Jordan Peterson said, sorry, not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that. You jumped in on this conversation, writing this article about, let Sports Illustrated do this. Was it about that specific model in your view, or is it about the idea that we're supposed to accept what other people tell us is beauty?
Look, Tony, for a long time, this has been happening. We've been having the institutions have been taken over by weirdos, losers, and mutations who've decided that we have to be improved somehow. The Sports Illustrated swimsuit thing was kind of a tradition, and you put a very pretty girl on it, and everybody was happy. And now they're gonna show you cisgender males what real beauty is, and they're going to put a huge woman on it. And I'm sure she's a nice lady. But she's not attractive, and we're not going to, it's so presumptuous and so obnoxious that a bunch of these people who are, likely gender studies majors are going to inform us what we are, and improve us as to what we are to like and what we are to choose. No, that's just not going to happen. I look. Magazines like Sports Illustrated and Playboy, which put a dude on the cover because we're supposed to be open-minded enough to, I guess, like men who are pretending to be women. The magazines are dying anyway. Okay, it's kind of a medium with a short fuse. But they just seem to be intent on helping themselves along. I think the Amy Schumer phenomenon is instructive. Hollywood wants to maintain viability. Remember how they were trying to shove Lena Dunham and Amy Schumer down our throats? Yeah, that didn't work. No one wanted them.
But
they were unpleasant and they were shrill, and they were not, attractive.
But let's take a step. There's a business conversation, there's a cultural conversation here, and as we've noted, and you've noted before, very often the cultural overtakes the business. If we take a look at Disney's decisions, there seems to be a cultural, really their own internal group of people overtaking maybe what the business is of Disney, although their stock price has somewhat rebounded. Is Sports Illustrated in the business of selling magazines? Or is Sports Illustrated in the business of showing how diverse they are so they don't get boycotted, so they can still sell at least a number of magazines, because the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue isn't as important as the everyday sports stuff that they're putting out there?
Well, Tony, for a long time, us conservatives consoled ourselves that economics was going to trump everything, that if there was enough money there, someone was going to do it. And we were like, well, there's a bunch of conservatives out there who are looking for media, and it's only a matter of time before Hollywood sees that untapped market. Well, no. Economic determinism is overplayed. Oh, it exists. The Amy Schumer phenomenon, or the lack of an Amy Schumer phenomenon, kind of proves that. But you got to understand, these guys don't just get paid in money. They get paid in social cachet. And to a lot of them, that's what's important. I mean, you look at a lot of the people editing Sports Illustrated, they're probably not making a whole lot of money. But if they put, this plus size person on the cover, at least they're going to get invited to the right parties and praised. So it's kind of a weird interplay there. It's not so simple to say money trumps culture or culture trumps money. There's an interplay there. And what we have to do is resist. What we have to do is say, no, you're not going to change my culture. And when you do, I'm going to respond economically, and I'm going to respond with my own culture.
So here's the follow-up, right? When I saw Jordan Peterson's commentary, right? He put it on this tweet here. Sorry, not beautiful. No amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that.
True.
He's making the argument, and I think making the argument that you can't tell me what is beautiful. We clearly, as a society throughout history, know what is beautiful, even though maybe those standards have changed. We used to be a society, or you talk about European societies, for example, that had a more Rubenesque view of women. You could talk about different cultures accentuating certain body features and finding that more attractive, more sexually pleasurable, etc. But this is a magazine.
Well, look,
do I care?
This really has nothing to do with this lady, who may be a perfectly nice lady. And
there's nothing. We're not even talking about her as a human being.
I hope there are people who like her and that she has a wonderful life. What I resent is the fact that they're trying to screw with us. They know exactly what they're doing. When they put a dude on Playboy, they are screwing with us. When they put a fat girl on the swimsuit edition, they're giving us the middle finger. I don't like to be disrespected, because that's what they're doing.
Right.
This is not an attempt to broaden the horizons to make sure that everyone can find love. I hope everybody finds love, except for, Joe Biden and Hunter.
Joe Biden has found love. It's Eric Swalwell who had to go to Chinese spies.
But no, but the thing is, it is a cultural attack on us. And when they're all innocent going, I'm just trying to expand the concept of beauty. No, you're trying to screw with us because you think we're bad people. And I'm not going to take it, especially from punk asses like you.
One of the, over COVID, the one thing I took as legit from all of the science conversations, talking to Kurt Schlichter, author, columnist at townhall.com. What's the name of the latest book? The new book coming out in July.
New book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. You can and must pre-order it. We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. It's amazing.
And that's at Amazon.com. We'll Be Back,
Amazon,
The Fall and Rise of America. So the one thing I took, Kurt, from COVID, the one piece of science that I thought mattered was it's clear that people who are overweight suffer with COVID more. That seemed pretty obvious, whether it's fat cells or fat deposits, whatever it is. And I have to date, I don't talk about it often publicly, I've lost 45 pounds.
Yeah, I noticed you're looking good. And and when you texted me to be on today, I was getting in my car from the gym. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm trying to stay healthier.
But the point I bring up, the reason I bring it up is that we have built into this idea in America that somehow fat is healthy, and that somehow
I don't think anybody actually believes that.
Whoa. There are people who defend that. There are people who fight for that. This is the argument. The argument isn't that you're not a lovely person. The argument is that it's simply not as healthy as if you're in better shape. It doesn't mean that somebody who's very, very thin is going to live to be 1 million. But we are, when we talk about the screwing with people, part of it is a scientific screwing with people. You're clearly not better off if you're heavier in the main.
Well, that's true. And I think that people saying, hey, you're beautiful just how you are doing themselves a disservice. I exercise every day. And if I didn't, I would, I could be a Sports Illustrated cover model. But I'm trying to be healthy. I think lying to people and telling them that they're healthy when they're manifestly are not is not doing any good. But it's really, they're when they say, oh, I'm big and beautiful and healthy the way I am. No, you're not. And you're not. It's an excuse and it's a power play. And I'm not going to be involved in it.
And that's how this when I saw Peterson's tweet, and then I saw your article, what came to me in reading it and going over it, and you can get it at townhall.com, is the idea not that someone may think she's attractive. That's personal, man. Everyone's got their thing. You can find her very attractive. That's fine. It's the idea that somehow we're not allowed to say, wait, she's not attractive.
Exactly.
That's the issue.
I'm not going to have, and that's one of the reasons, Jordan Peterson's statement was so subversive. The one reason my article is so subversive is because I'm saying, no, I disagree. And I'm not supposed to. I'm not allowed to. I'm supposed to validate the current narrative, and I'm not going to do that. Now, anyone is free to disagree with me. You're free to go, no, man, she's on fire. Okay. But I'm not going to. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to think.
Right.
And don't get in my face, because if you get in my face, I'm going to push back.
And this is what makes this argument so difficult, and what really does for people on the political right get them confused is that we're not discussing her. We're not discussing Yumi Nu. We're not discussing whether or not you find her attractive or not. There is no insult going on. There is, if you put somebody on the cover of Sports Illustrated, you're going to elicit an opinion of whether or not that person is attractive. You like the swimsuit, all these kinds of things. It is the immediate response of, if you don't find her attractive, you're clearly a bigot. You're clearly terrible. How dare you? And somehow you're supposed to be silenced in the idea of opinion. And an opinion is just fine.
And frankly, I don't think they want you to find her attractive. I think they know that she is not by the common standards of beauty. I think they simply want to make you say it knowing it's not true. Because when you make somebody lie, as the communists can tell you, you obtain power over them. Okay, that's the same thing is when a manifest male walks out and says, my name's Jolene, you will refer to me by my pronouns she and her, and we all know it's a dude. It's a dude in a dress. But if they make you lie, they have exercised power over you. And
which
I'm
is
not
why
going to let these punks exercise power over me.
Right. So
I'm a sovereign American. I will rule my own life and say what I want. And if you want to stop me, here I am. Step up.
That's what this is about. And it's important that we make the distinction, because people will look at us and say, oh, two white fat guys having this conversation. But we're not talking about her. We're talking about the idea of forcing language, like in pronouns, forcing the idea that we have to accept her as beautiful. Otherwise, we're bad people. Neither one of those things is factual. And when you talk about let Sports Illustrated commit suicide, is that what you're referring to? Or you're referring to something else?
Well, look, when I say commit suicide, I think they're just going to drive people away because I think we're sick of it. But, there's an important distinction here, Tony. You and I are not putting ourselves out as models. We're just doing our thing.
Well, speak for yourself.
Well, I mean, sure, your sexy radiance is amazing. You have an aura.
I'm not going to lie. I'd hit that.
Healthy aura. But the fact is, I'm not going to a bunch of leftists and saying, here's my chiseled bronze Greek god that you must you must consider beautiful. I'm not trying to tell them what to do. I'm just saying, hey, most of us feel X. You're telling us feeling X is bad and you must submit. And I don't want to submit. I'm not interested in being a cultural serf to a bunch of people who can't do a push-up.
Is that how it's viewed now? Can't do a push-up?
Well, there's a lot of sissies out there. I'm just saying.
I have known you for years. I have never heard you say that a day in my life. Oh, that's terrific. And let me, while I've got you here, Kurt Schlichter, author and columnist, get the Kelly Turnbull series of books at Amazon.com right there. The new book comes out in July, The Fall and Rise of America. Be sure to get that at Amazon.com. You watch the primary results. Madison Cawthorn out in North Carolina. We're still too close to call as of this moment that we're talking in Pennsylvania with Mehmet Oz and Dave McCormick. You surprised that Madison Cawthorn is out or relieved?
I think this is the best thing that could happen to the young man. I think he got in. I think he was immature. I think he has a chance to rethink the direction of his life. Obviously, he had a huge tribulation early on, came back, became a congressman, wasn't ready to handle it. I'm hoping the young guy takes the opportunity, do kind of a personal inventory, do some growing. I don't think he's disqualified from service in the future. In fact, I think if he learns from this, I think he could be a valuable role model to people. But look, the people of the 11th district decided they wanted, frankly, a more serious candidate. They didn't want to deal with his personal drama, as is their right. It's not about Madison Cawthorn. It's about the people of the 11th district. And when all you're talking about is the latest misadventure of your 26-year-old congressman, that's not what they signed up for. They're not there to subsidize his adolescence. And he needs to do some growing up. I thought it was very classy. He tweeted out, "Congratulations to the guy who won." That's step one. I'd like to see him go. I'd like to see him do some growing. I'm interested in what happens to him in the future. He's not an untalented guy. He's not
right.
He hasn't done anything that absolutely disqualifies him in the future. He didn't steal anything that we know of. He didn't hurt anybody. He acted ridiculously and kind of made a fool of himself. Okay. Neither of us have ever done that when we were younger. Oh no,
never once.
Not us.
Never once. Wait, I didn't do it in the way he did it. I will gladly stipulate that right
we weren't
there.
in Congress though. Look, I wish him nothing but the best for the future. I hope he so far he seems to be handling it exactly right. It's got to be a pretty a big setback. I'm sure, it's an energy he could use to grow, and I hope he does. Or he could, spiral down the toilet, and we could find him in rehab. I don't know.
Let's hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case. It's an opportunity.
Kurt Schlichter, the new book will be back, The Fall and Rise of America, Amazon.com. That's where you get it. And also the Kelly Turnbull series of books, fantastic series at Amazon.com. Kurt Schlichter, dude, you're a pleasure. You're a treat, young man.
Oh, and Tony, I want you to know my picture is on the cover of We'll Be Back, and I'm a very sexy plus-sized author.
Well,
so
if you say so,
I do.
If you say so.
We'll be back. The Fallen
Kurt Schlichter, appreciate you, my friend. You can make sure you get the books, and I voice his audiobooks. I do that thing right there, so you can get the audiobooks as well. On the show today, we'll be getting into some of this. Share if you missed any part of this interview, we'll be sharing it, and we'll be getting into what's going on in these markets. These markets do not engage good harbinger for the future. Of course, you can always ask the questions if you're on rumble.com/Tony Katz, and then you can follow along, you can ask your questions, be a part of what's going on, and get on over to what we're doing at Locals, TonyKatz.locals.com. Pretty soon, TonyKatz.com.